Saturn in the 6th can mean some sort of lesson through either the work or the health. It's in Pisces, which is a sign of hospitals, among other things, of people with problems of some kind. But it does have some moderately good aspects. It's trining the moon out of sign, but a trine within 3 degrees. It's in a wide trine, Jupiter in the 10th. It also is squaring Pluto. So we have a mixture of aspects there. And it's, I believe, well, it's semi-sextile, perhaps close enough to be semi-sextile to Mars. So, on the whole, it's not too negative, except there may be some anxiety with that square to Pluto. But we have to try to decide now where is the challenge likely to come, since it has the trine to the moon, and yet at the same time the square to Pluto, which rules the 2nd house. We're not sure how to interpret that particular package. It may mean that work is necessary that the individual really doesn't relish and feels rather confined by in order to earn a living, and there is a tendency to be rather extravagant, to have expensive tastes with Sagittarius in the 2nd house. At least you're certainly going to buy books. That Sagittarian moon is going to, moon always is a collector for emotional reasons, sometimes security reasons, sometimes sentimental reasons, but they do collect. And Sagittarius collects books. And it's interesting that another of the rulers of the 2nd house is up in the Sagittarius house. So again, we get a dual kind of pattern here, suggesting that a good bit of the financial resources may very well go into learning things, study courses and books and so on. But the challenge here of the Saturn Pisces mixture remains somewhat uncertain. So this is the case where I would want to talk to the person, and we can just speculate that they may have had to work rather hard, and that the work was not as glamorous or as idealistic as they would have liked. Normally with Pisces on the 6th, with Neptune almost on the midheaven, really very close to being right on the midheaven, and Jupiter in the 10th house, we have all of our spiritual planets tied in here with the work area, work and career, 6th house, 10th house, status in the world. And so this normally means the individual would like to have some sort of humanitarian or altruistic or idealistic career, perhaps even something like the entertainment world, the world of make-believe, of glamour and mystery that's associated with Pisces and Leo. And it could go either way, into this commercial glamour field or into the spiritual and altruistic field. And even in our final rulership of the 10th house, our moon ruling the 10th is in Sagittarius. So in every way, the houses of work are calling for, the earth houses of the chart are calling for something that is intellectual or spiritual or idealistic. And so since that is not easy to find in a commercial world, at least that pays a very good living, that may have been part of the lesson of Saturn, to work at something that was fairly humble, maybe not too financially rewarding at times, in order to satisfy this idealistic side of the nature, or to work at something that just simply didn't bring much return at times, something that was hard work. Saturn never gives something for nothing. You earn everything you get out of Saturn. But when you do work conscientiously with it, in terms of the reality of the world, you get a great deal. It builds a solid foundation that really lasts for eternity. Now we see a strong artistic potential in the chart, with that much in Pisces, with Neptune right on the midheaven, with Mercury aspecting Venus and Neptune. All three of these planets, the two that relate to beauty, Venus and Neptune, Mercury ruling the mind and the hands, which are very necessary if you're going to create anything beautiful. And so if the individual could, they might very well have gone into a field connected with the arts. And this might have been something like teaching, since it's easier to make a living as a teacher of art than as a practicing professional artist. But this could very well have been one of the strong inclinations here. And The moon in Sagittarius would fit well with teaching. Jupiter, the ruler of Sagittarius, in the 10th would fit well with this. And Neptune ruling the 6th, being just inside the 9th house, the Sagittarius house, would work out very well with a teaching career. And the nodes in the 3rd and the 9th very frequently are found in the charts of teachers, where there's a constant drive for knowledge. Wherever the nodes are, they have this polar tension at all times, like they're pulling apart and pulling together, and we have to integrate them. And in the mental houses, this is relatively comfortable and easy to do. Generally, we can just gather knowledge through one end and give it out through the other. And so it's a very good position for a teacher. Now, it has its potential difficulties at the same time, since this pulling apart aspect of the meaning of the aspect represents often changes wherever it's placed. And in the mental houses, this may mean changes of major when one is in school, changes of schools, going in and out of school, various reasons, sometimes financial pressures. Our Saturn-Pluto square, with Pluto ruling the 2nd, could very easily represent financial pressures in the early home life, which made it necessary to go to work and not be able to finish higher education. And that may be part of the problem of that Saturn in the 6th there. But there's also always a possibility with the nodes in these houses of going back to school later, getting more education. And Pluto and Neptune up there, two of our old age planets, or water planets, representing old age and the closing of a cycle at the close of a long life, can often mean return to school in later years when the individual is older. So this may very well have worked out in the end so that they were able to continue with their studies. If not formal studies, certainly then their private studies are going to go on. Now our 5th house and our 7th house are where we look for personal relationships, romance, courtship, sex, children in the 5th, and marriage in the 7th. And we have very mixed aspects here with a sun-moon square, which often means some sort of tension between the opposite sexes, and yet the moon also is, well, very widely trine Venus, and the sun is nicely sextile Mars, and so the odds can go either way here as to some tension in the area of romance, but it may very well work out quite nicely. And we do have Uranus ruling the 5th house there, sextile Mercury in the 5th, which is a very good indication of the thing working out well, because in the end, because if a planet in the house is in good aspect to a planet that rules the sign on the cusp, it's a very good augury for harmony in that part of the life. So even though there may have been some pressures here, which again could very easily be financial, the financial obligations of raising a family, with the moon in the 2nd, the sun in the 5th, the probability of having a home and a family is very good in the chart. And in fact, often with Aries on the 7th, there is an early marriage, rather impulsive marriage, sometimes even elopement. But our cautious Capricorn here in the 4th may slow that down, but often the Venus in the 7th, or Mars in the 7th, or the Mars sign will mean an early marriage. And one of the little kind of iffy things with the sun in the 5th house, there is the possibility of a famous child. The sun recognizing something, some rise to eminence and recognition and honor in the world in some way. Also, we know that the children will be artistic or sensitive with that Pisces pair there in the 5th. That Mercury in Pisces is a sensitive, artistic mind, usually poetic, a love of music, often a love of animals or nature. And there will be children with similar qualities. And a great deal of feeling and a great deal of love here in the personal relationships with our ruler of the ascendant in the 7th, as we've already said, and Mars there as well, Taurus. And so even though there may be some arguments at times with that the Mars in the 7th and with Venus squaring Uranus and the nodes, the possibility of harmony, of working this out, is good. Mercury with a good aspect to Uranus on one side and the node, and Venus, suggesting that with intelligence, with the flexibility of Pisces, the situation can be harmonized and worked out. The type of a partner we would expect the individual to pick would be someone with some strong fire, Aries in there, and Mars, and someone who is rather intense, very strong, emotionally expressive, and either someone with rather ardent nature or someone who's a good provider, or preferably both. And because they want the dramatic, dynamic male ardor type of thing with Venus and Aries, but they also want the steady, dependable Taurus qualities and be able to count on them in a pinch. Now, Jupiter square from Mars does warn, to Mars does warn against power struggles here in the area of partnership, but it's, again, up to us if we learn to avoid the traps that the chart suggests, to agree to discuss things rather than to get into tensional power plays. There's both strength and a great deal of sensitivity and vulnerability in the chart, and in the end, they probably balance reasonably well. As I said at the start of life, I think there was a fair amount of insecurity. Pisces is one of the anxious signs, one of the signs that often has feelings of a certain amount of helplessness, but it's less so in the Leo house, and having Leo in the 10th house also shows pretty strong inner drive to make it, and Mars in Taurus is the same. So unless this power is abdicated to other people, there is this danger. Whatever we put in the 7th house, we may project into other people. We may select someone else who expresses that side of our nature for us, so we don't do it ourselves. So it would be possible to express that Aries-Taurus side of the nature, both very strong signs, instead of doing it herself, to pick a partner to do it for her. And that would make her that much the weaker, that much the poorer, if she abdicated that strength in her character. But there's going to be strength there anyway, especially where the children are concerned. The home security, they're going to have a pretty strong backbone there and be able to work things out. The need to be a mother is pretty strong with that Cancer elevated in the 9th house and with planets in the 5th house. And so she would be probably pretty disappointed if she didn't have children, but it's quite likely that there would be children. And the trines there from Mercury to those 9th house planets, North Node, part of Fortune, Neptune, suggests in the end that she would be pretty happy about her children, because that 9th house is where we're ultimately going. That's our basic beliefs and goals and values. So it's the direction we're moving in life. And there's a very fertile sign up there to put Cancer up there. So I expect she not only has several children, but a lot of grandchildren, because that's the 5th from the 5th. So the 9th house we read for grandchildren. And the working out of the problems, whether they come in partnership and learning to realize their own strengths and not to give it away to other people, or in learning to work or to maintain good health, the personal relationships of our 3rd house, mainly learning confidence in herself and learning to let this fire self out, to enjoy it, to let the dramatic side express, not to inhibit it too much, to enjoy it, and to follow through on the drive for knowledge, 9th house, Sagittarius, Pisces, to understand life, carry this further, and to gain the mystical faith which Pisces is capable of gaining, where there is a really great trust in the universe, and so we feel our oneness with it. And does anybody have questions that we haven't touched? That's a silent class night. Everybody wants to get at those charts. Okay. That's right. I didn't touch those at all, did I? Okay, let's just say a word on the Arabic parts. Part of status theoretically suggests a career from the past. We have an interesting combination there, falls almost on the 7th house cusp and in Aries, so it's much like our Venus that rules the ascendant, but it's over there in the house of other people, but it's in Aries, a sign of self-expression and independence and freedom. Suggests the career in the past was working on that same tension area of integrating Aries Libra, the individual will, with the requirements of having harmonious, comfortable relationships with other people. That she worked on that in her past life career, and we've got the same thing going with part of destiny in the Aries house in Libra that she's working on at this time around again. Now, that may mean a career actually working with people, some kind of cooperative endeavor. For instance, this Libra emphasis, Aries-Libra mixture, is very often found in the charts of counselors of all kinds, therapists of all kinds, people who are working in close relationships with others, but they're not permanent associations. They're not a lifetime marriage. It's a temporary joint endeavor for common goals, and then it's severed. The association is severed. So you can read this as the goal of marriage, or the goal of working with other people, or the goal of learning to integrate her will with those close others in her life, so that the two can have harmonious interactions. And our two parts associated with the ascendant, a part of fortune in Cancer, says she was a mama before, a mother instinct brought from the past very strongly, which we already knew with all that Cancer up there, and still an idealized kind of feeling about this area of life, a desire to be the good mother, to have an idealistic home, and to care for others as one of the goals of life, and at the same time the goal of having this emotional closeness with other people. And our part of Spirit as a personal goal, we fall down here in the Cancer house, but in the Capricorn sign. So the personal goal, again, of being in the home or in a domestic role, a state of emotional closeness, having a family, but also having some degree of personal control over it, with Capricorn there, having some degree of individual freedom in how she's going to handle this situation with Uranus right there with it. And very possibly the goal of studying astrology in the home, since we've got Uranus down in there, and maybe even doing something to give it to others, because right over the line it's conjunct the South Node, which first has to learn but then has to give. And in the house of the mind can often mean teaching small groups, small personal study situations. And so that combination of Uranus, part of Spirit, and South Node together, but overlapping the third house, may mean the connection of activities carried on in or from the home, but giving knowledge, New Age knowledge, to other people. Mm-hmm.
Are you allowing the 12-degree orb between
Moon and Venus?
Yeah.
I'm tempted to allow it as a very wide potential in nature for becoming more free, more sense of self-confidence, more enthusiasm, letting this fire out. That they do, at least to some degree, help to reinforce each other and help to bring this fire out into expression, to overcome some of the insecurity of having first house planets in the seventh, of having Capricorn in the Cancer house, and as much in water as we have in the chart. That the fire there is going to be reinforced because of that trine, even though it's a very wide one. Mm-hmm. Yes, I consider Saturn and Jupiter also in the trine. I mentioned that one. Yeah, that's an 8 degree. Yes, that is a grand trine. Saturn and Jupiter are an 8 degree orb, but they do form a grand trine with the moon. 2 in fire and 1 in water. Well, it just means that she can successfully integrate those rather diverse forms of expression. And notice they're all in earth houses besides. So this shows the basic ability is there to work effectively and to earn a living and to improve her health if there was a health problem from that Saturn in the 6th house, or there may have been in the early life. But it suggests that she can successfully handle whatever the Saturn problem was and can move towards a successful work in the world and achievement of her aims in her career area. and also intellectual drives and spiritual drives, with Jupiter and Sagittarius involved.
Do you find that opposition is less squares? I know
Yes, I do find oppositions less stress than squares. I should perhaps have mentioned that particular opposition, though. That is an important one, and it's one of the ones that shows psychic ability and interest. These are two of our psychic planets, Neptune and Uranus, and there's quite a bit of psychic potential from that aspect, especially with Neptune and Uranus so close to an angle. This gives much added power when they fall very closer on an angle in the chart. And this could have been a kind of sensitivity, oversensitivity, and vulnerability at the start of life. This was one of the things I was thinking about, that the fact that they were in opposition, but I emphasized the square to the ascendant and the square to Venus as being the more sharply felt problem in the area, but the sensitivity factor, those two in aspect, was certainly part of it.
if they were square, they would also be psychic.
Yes, any aspect, the psychic tendency is there, but it becomes more difficult to handle, a little more, tends to be oversensitivity and to bring problems if it's a negative aspect. That's what I think. And the three water planets, the Moon, Neptune, Pluto, plus Uranus. And if they are tied by aspect to Mercury, the planet of consciousness, I think this helps to get the psychic ability up into consciousness in some way.
If they were in conjunction with Mercury, then that would make it more difficult?
No, any aspect of Mercury makes it more possible to bring it into consciousness, but the more favorable the aspect and the closer, the easier it is for it to happen. Right, Uranus and Mercury is sextile, which is a really beautiful aspect for a good mind. Right, and Mercury trines Neptune. So this is one of the strong positive features that suggests that these can be harmonized effectively, because I don't consider an opposition really serious if there's a sextile trine to it. This is the open, easy door to integration. The squares to the opposition are where the problems lie. Okay.